Okay, and now for our main event. We have another musician for you, so I'm excited about this. Ken Gaines is no stranger to Oasis. There's a lot of great information about him. I'm going to forego that. He's got a great talk planned for us called I Love. So I'm just going to bring him up right now. Mr. Razzmatazz, Ken Gaines.
Let's hear it for Hayden. I've known him for quite some time. I first met Hayden when I was doing an outdoor gig over at City Center, and he came by and he listened to me and says, "How do I get this gig?" You remember the first song you sang for me? Yep. Well, I'm the king of the swingers, hey, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. It's from the Jungle Book. All right, on another topic. This is called I Love. There are wars, terror attacks, random violence, poverty, political polarization, racial tensions, religious conflict, plagues looming over the horizon. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. Sound familiar? It should. This pretty much sums up the general condition of humanity throughout its entire existence. The balance has shifted from time to time. We now have the man-made ability to destroy ourselves alongside the plagues and cosmic catastrophes that have always existed. We're living a bit longer and have succeeded in staving off most of those plagues. And at times, those plagues destroyed the majority of the entire populations everywhere on this planet. We're eating more, generally better. Violence, yeah, we're still a violent being, still. Statistically, at least in this culture, violent crime has steadily declined in the past 40 years. We just know more about it and much quicker. A constant, unremitting barrage of it. Often we know more about the violence in another country, while ignorant of what happened in the next block, because the numbers aren't high enough to report it, or they just don't serve someone's political point of view. So are we happy? My mom was born in 1929, at the beginning of the Great Depression, in the little backwater town of Biloxi, Mississippi. And she told me she had no idea how poor they were until, with World War II looming, her daddy got a steady job with the government at the brand new Keesler Airfield in 1942. She had no idea how poor they were because she was happy. And though there were times of true sadness in her life, she remained a happy person and taught her children to be happy intentionally. Happiness or despair is more often than not, the stories we tell ourselves. If we tell ourselves stories of loss or want, that's what we'll feel. If we tell ourselves stories of what we love, that's what we'll feel. If you'd like a more prestigious and eloquent backing for this, read the works of Erich Fromm, starting with the basic idea of being instead of having, and then going on to the art of loving and living. It's a brilliant body of work, and I can guarantee you, my mom never read Fromm, and she didn't have to. For her, being was doing, and I don't mean just keeping busy, but that's a start. I've always worked, and though I've not always loved the work I did, I've always loved. You want to know some of the things I love? I'm going to tell you, but before I do, let me first say that I realize that each of you has a different set of experiences than mine. And yet, in the end, we share so much in common as to make those differences, if not irrelevant, then not quite so overwhelming as we should make them out to be. Ray Bradbury wrote at the end of Fahrenheit 451, "Stuff your eyes with wonder. Live as if you dropped dead in 10 seconds. See the world. It's more fantastic than any dream made or paid for in factories. Ask no guarantees, ask for no security. There never was such an animal. And if there were, it'd be related to the great sloth that hangs upside down in a tree all day, sleeping its life away." So, I love the astounding reality of birth, growth, and death. I love the battle between fear and joy as my child grows in its mother's womb. I love the total helplessness of childbirth, an ending and a beginning at the same time. And I am both in awe and fear of a woman's total immersion in it. I love the wonder of looking at a newborn. Part her, part me, part something unknown to become its own being. I love the first smiles on a baby's face, coming from nowhere, the first glimmerings of happiness. And you do too, all of you. It's so simple, human, beautiful. I love the joyous heartbreak of watching my children grow and turn their faces, minds, and hearts further and further away from me, where only my love can follow them. I love the way my mom and dad watched me run away several times. And when I came back, I wasn't coming home, just coming back. They're both gone, and I love them still and always will. I love us, you and me, how we keep trying, keep running away, keep coming back. We're not a creature that readily accepts the status quo, which, as far as I can see, things are going to change, things are going to remain the same. I love how we communicate with each other, not just what we say, but how we say it. Speaking, singing, writing, drawing, the expressions on our faces, the way we stand and move around each other, how we dress, how and where we live. How did that first smiling infant become us? I love our hands, the most outward obvious expression of what we do and what we've done. On my left hand, the one that catches the brunt of my mistakes, are hard-pitted calluses on the tips of my fingers, the beginnings of swollen arthritic joints, and the base of my left thumb is half again as wide as that on my right. And on my right hand are calluses around my cuticles, from decades of strapping on finger picks. And a middle finger that will not completely straighten. From time to time, it locks down, and I have to physically reach over and unlock it. On both hands are very specific muscles and the very specific blood veins that have developed to feed those muscles, all because I've played guitar for over 50 years. And I love the scars on my hands. One from a bike wreck when I was 5 that nearly severed the finger. All sorts of slipped tools, knives, chisel blades, and the very distinct markings of a dolphin bite. How many of you have one of those? There you go. That's a rarity. No other species has hands like ours. In their sophistication and dexterity, there are minds in motion. Look at your hands. And the memories start unfolding like a disjointed movie. The memories of our successes and failures lie on their surface and in their muscle tone and the crisscrossing of blood vessels. I love our voices, all distinct in timbre and accent. I love my voice. How many of you have heard me sing? I can wail.
I could also be somebody else with this voice of mine.
I can also be something else with this voice of mine. A screech owl can't do this.
Oh.
And a cow can't do this. I talk to screech owls at night in my yard. Actually, not too long ago, I talked two of them in, and all of a sudden things got quiet, and I looked up in the branch above me, and I saw the little silhouette there, and I was kind of watching, and all of a sudden he jumped over to another one, and they just kind of fluttered down to the ground in sexual ecstasy. It was great. And I realized that I'd been part of that conversation, and I was wondering if they'd shown up expecting a menage a trois. I love things. I love day and night, the rising of the sun when I'm awake to see it, the feel of its heat on my skin, the work I can do in the day, the angling of the late afternoon light, the deepening colors of sunset. I love that mysterious transition of dusk, where all the remaining natural light is reflecting off the particles of the sky, and the bats come out, and the sounds all around changing to the music of the night. I love the cool closeness of the darkness that invites the lighting of a fire and gathering around it. I love the way the moon always changes, and I am at once in primitive awe of its mysterious shadowed ivory disk. Yet, with the imagination that I love, and having watched Neil Armstrong do it on TV, I can put myself bouncing around it on a solid, stark mini-planet in black and white. Getting lost. And when away from the city lights, I love the vast, limitless wonder of the night sky. Stars glittering, planets on their course, satellites racing in the smoke of the galaxy we call the Milky Way. I love to lie back, focus on nothing until the movement of a meteorite or satellite catches my eye. I can let my mind soar into it, on, knowing I will never reach the end of it. For every time we humans develop the ability to see farther, we see more. Every time, without fail. And in my imagination, which I love, I can envision a time when we see beyond our own universe and glimpse innumerable other universes expanding and speeding toward our own. Oh yeah, I love my imagination. And on the other hand, every time we humans develop the ability to see closer, we see more every time, without fail, with the realization that our bodies, what we call us, these bodies, house more microbial entities that aren't us than are. And in my imagination that I love, I can envision the true intelligence of the universe at a microbial level. And we, the tool makers, the imaginators, the travelers, are merely being developed to transport that microbial life and true intelligence out into the universe. Oh, I love my imagination. I love the Gulf of Mexico. It's warm, soft, and smell like any other ocean I've ever experienced. I love its sugar beaches, scalding in the middle of the day, soothing as the sun goes down as I watch pelicans use the updrafts of the waves to soar just above them. I love what lives along that shore. I know what those little bubbling holes on the edge of the surf are. I know that at night the ghost crabs come out, scuttling out of the larger holes above the level of the surf at high tide. I know what jellyfish can still sting you. I know not to step on a dead catfish, and that the spines of a dead stingray are still lethal. I know what lives in those waters. I've caught the fish, picked up blue claw crabs, stepped on the flounder, swam with dolphins and sharks. I know they're there because I've flown over them in a helicopter and see them swimming just yards away from all the swimmers and wade fishers. And my first memories of experiencing the Gulf are with my mom and her family, who all lived just a few blocks from the water. And I knew how to pick up crabs and pick shrimp and spit tiny fish bones out before I was a year and a half old. So is there any wonder why I love the Gulf of Mexico? And it's not the only body of water I love. I absolutely love the Medina River. Most of my time on it is spent up near the headwaters. When the storms come through, they're the first places to clear and reveal all the springs that are its source, bubbling out of the limestone, making it the sweet green gem that it is. For 3 decades, I've watched the changes, subtle and not so subtle. The trees that have fallen, the changing growth of the grass, the banks that have caved in, the holes filled with rocks and others hollowed out by the torrents. I've seen parts of the river disappear during drought and only to pop up again downstream, closer to the bigger streams. 15 years ago, a cliff collapsed due to heavy rains and changed the shape of it. And still, the water flows, and I fly fish it. And I've learned so many lessons from it. Is there any wonder why I love the Medina River? Being is doing. I love to read and listen and sit and think and write. I love to play my guitar until my left hand aches and sing until my voice can do anything. I love to dig in the dirt, dive in the water, dive through the night, hug, kiss, make love. I love to stand close to the fire. I love the first taste of an ice-cold beer, the breath of a good wine, the glow of a fine whiskey. I love the taste of my food. I love to feel my muscles ache, my mind fatigued, and fall asleep exhausted in the arms of my wife. I love to wake up slowly, then slip into the day with increasing speed. And I love to laugh with my friends and cry with them and stand in awe of the beauty of it all. It's beautiful. Don't take my word for it. There it is. Here it is. I love it all, and I know I will lose it someday, so I love it all the more. This is not just accentuate the positive kumbaya, pie in the sky. This is plain old everyday reality. It may not be the reality that makes the news or is pounced on and pounded into us by pundits. A lot of P's in that. I had fun with the writing that. But in the part of the vast interwoven web of our daily experience, right in there, with doing the dishes, stubbing our toes in the dark, taking care of our sick loved ones, going to work, waking up with cramps, and taking a daily dose of psyllium husks. Happiness is right there on the tip of our minds, as Mom used to say, just as much a part of every day as the mundane. If you want to know about tough times, ask European and Japanese survivors of World War II. Read the stories of the survivors of the Holocaust or the first battles of World War I. That's what our parents and our grandparents and great-grandparents lived through. Read the accounts of times when plague swept across Europe and destroyed half the population. Consider the effect of the diseases brought to the inhabitants of this continent by the first Europeans that killed upwards of 90% of the population. There will be tough times. But until that big comet shows up, we're still here surviving and thriving, and damn it, that's what we do. We either fear it, attempt to ignore it for as long as we can, or love it. It's a choice. I choose to love it, though it killed my mom at a too early age, and crippled my dad for the last 10 years of his life. You know what else I love? I love the opportunity to come before you today and share what my mom taught me. I love to share happiness. With all of our scars, wrinkles, prejudices, weird ways, we're still a pretty damn beautiful group of human beings on a Sunday morning. And if this is a handbasket headed for hell, I'm in. How about you? Thank you. How'd I do on time? Yeah? I got one song for you. Help develop these calluses. Any questions? Say again? Oh! Hell yes. So what? Okay, obviously I learned it. Okay? I learned it. This is it, man. This is it. This and my family. This is it. I grew up in a military family. I grew up in one of those families who lived in different cultures. My mom's from Biloxi. That's where my parents retired, passed away. Yeah. But I lived over, but love brought me here in Houston 5 years ago. And Houston's been real good to me. It really has. It's exciting. I can work here. My dad is the same way. Microphone. Let me get out here. Now in the mirror of my mind, see my father cast his line, silhouette. The rising sun, a single dancer in the light. Simple melody and flight, the song begins. Dance done. Dance for troubles upon water. Let them flow into the sea. Lift your heart. As if this morning was all the sunlight you'll ever see. When wrestling demons in the night, should I run or should I fight? Things I've done. The quiet thunder of the dawn, I know the memory and the song down in the ocean. Dancing is one. That's control. Calm water. And the sun.
as if this morning was all sunlight. Thank you.
Thank you again.